How's it going, guys? Vaibhav here, and welcome to a camera comparison between the Apple iPhone 17 Pro and the Apple iPhone 16 Pro. Both of these smartphones are propped up exactly on the same stand, and I thought I'd start with the front-facing camera test because behind me is a very bright area. So this will give you an idea of how much of an improvement the front-facing camera brings to the table when it comes to video recording. I am filming at 4K 60 FPS on both of these smartphones, so in terms of your overall video quality you should be expecting somewhat of a similar result. And because of how much of a change in brightness this entire scene is going through, it'll give you a good idea as to how well it does. Stabilization can also be checked here, and last but not least, the audio quality, which I will be cycling through a lot throughout the video. But yeah, now I'm gonna move on to some of the special features that the iPhone 17 Pro has, and then move on with other types of videos, followed by photo samples, and then again the same stuff but in low light and nighttime scenarios. So without further ado, let's begin. All right, so let's start off with 4K 120 FPS video recording. On both of these smartphones, I'm using the regular wide lens here to start off. None of these can do ultra wide angle 4K 120 FPS video, but this is something that I thought I would point out as a difference between them. So I'm gonna now move on to 2x. So this is 2x here and 2x on the 17 Pro as well. Have a look at how the text is here, whether or not you guys see any sort of a difference. We'll move to a text that is a bit further away, and maybe some building elements as well, so you guys get an understanding of whether or not there is a significant difference between these two smartphones in terms of 4K 120. And then finally we can zoom in further and go all the way to the max, which on the iPhone 16 Pro is 3x, and on the iPhone 17 Pro is also 3x. So this is now 3x video recording on both of these smartphones. Let me know what you guys think about the resolution and the quality, and whether or not you find any sort of a difference between these two devices. Switching over to 4K 60 FPS, this is using the ultra wide angle lens on both of these smartphones. What's interesting is that in my hand, I can feel the iPhone 16 Pro heat up a bit more compared to the iPhone 17 Pro. So given the weather here in Dubai, it's scorching hot even in September. So yeah, that is something to keep in mind if you're a content creator who perhaps wants to film a lot of video, especially in the heat. Now, I'm gonna switch to the 1x on both of these devices. So this is a look at 1x video coming from both of these devices. Once again, do let me know what you guys are seeing and whether or not the difference in video quality is something that you expect, or is it something that is surprising to you. I feel like the difference in video quality is very marginal, if at all, but I could be wrong because the display is also really dim here, so I can't see the full picture. We're gonna zoom into 2x on both of these, so 2x here and 2x also over here. So this will give you an idea of how this thing can focus on text, if at all. And now we're gonna go to 4x on the iPhone 17 Pro, which is the lens of choice when it comes to zoom here. This is the new lens, whereas 4x on the iPhone sort of 16 Pro 4.4 is what I could get to, is approximately this kind of quality. What you do get is a 5x quality, where the quality improves drastically, whereas 5x on the 17 Pro gets you this level of detail. There is an extra 8x lens on the iPhone 17 Pro right here, so this is now 8x, and you can zoom in to the iPhone 16 Pro at 8x over here. So I'm gonna focus on these trees. Let me know if the quality here is any better, and move on to the 16 Pro so you guys get a full difference. Because the cameras are a bit apart, I can't get the exact same framing all the time, but I hope you guys can understand. I'm also gonna do a stabilization test at this 8x zoom so you guys get an understanding of whether or not there is any stability that the iPhone 17 Pro is bringing to frame that the 16 Pro isn't. Last but not least, let's focus on this building and go all the way to 15x, and the same here, but you can go all the way to 24x. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the differences and whether the upgrade is warranted or not. Alright, so one of the biggest changes with the iPhone 17 Pro when it comes to front-facing video, once again at 4K 60 FPS, this is what I'm recording at, is that the 17 Pro allows you to kind of change your perspective from the selfie camera without having to change the orientation of your smartphone whatsoever. So while I've got both of these propped up on a table right here, what I can do is stop recording. I need to stop recording for this to happen. And now I can change the perspective on the 17 Pro and then restart the recording once again. So there we go. This is now recording using the different perspective on the iPhone 17 Pro, and that's something that the iPhone 16 Pro just cannot do. This, I think, is a really good feature to have for content creators, especially those who want to quickly take a portrait and a landscape video together. They can do that literally by having the phone now in portrait orientation. So I thought that is something useful and interesting, which I thought I would show you guys here as well. Another way to share your content on the Apple iPhone 17 Pro this year is recording using the front and the rear cameras simultaneously. The only drawback for this is that you can record only at 4K 30 FPS. So that is something to keep in mind. And yeah, aside from that, everything works as expected. I have the 4K 30 FPS footage from the iPhone 16 Pro side by side so you guys can understand the differences. But yeah, you can switch to the ultra wide on the iPhone 16 Pro, and this is something you cannot do while filming with the dual video on the iPhone 17 Pro. So that is another kind of a drawback to this feature. If you do want to film using the ultra wide, what you have to do is to stop the recording, which I'm gonna do, and then you can go on to 0.5x and then restart the recording once again. So that is something to keep in mind. Interestingly, it does give you the option to cycle back through all of the lenses once you are starting with the 0.5x shot, but it will not switch to your regular lenses. So 1x will switch to the regular lens, but as you move into your further out images, this is just going to be employing digital zoom and not optical zoom. So you will see a difference between it. So if you intend to kind of use your zoom feature and use your, the ultra wide lens simultaneously, you'll have to keep in mind that with dual video, you have to start with 0.5x, stop again, and then restart the recording at 1x to be able to use all the lenses properly without having to use digital zoom if you want to use dual video. So yeah, a bit of a caveat, but I thought I would show you guys so you guys can make a judgment. Many people like using cinematic video to record content using the main cameras as well. So I thought I'd throw in a sample between both of these smartphones so you guys get an understanding of whether or not there is any difference in using the iPhone 17 Pro or the iPhone 16 Pro for this kind of video. I know you've seen much of the smartphone's video performance during the day so far, but let's get some technical specifications out of the way to understand the key hardware differences between the two devices. The new 48 megapixel telephoto camera is an upgrade for sure, and the 4x optical zoom is kind of a mixed bag. Another big upgrade comes in the selfie camera, and those kind of encompass the key changes between the 17 Pro and the 16 Pro. With that said, let's start with the first of the images and test out the ultra-wide angle camera performance. And note, for all of my comparisons thus far, and even in this one, I film in auto mode to paint the most genuine usage scenario from a typical customer. There is a slight variation in the image colors for sure, and also in the detail when you crop into the image. This is how the ultra-wide view looks, which is a bit punchier on the 17 Pro, and detail-wise as well, slightly more, but only marginally. Here's another scenario where, especially when cropping in, the 17 Pro seems to be doing better. The ultra-wide scenario, the 17 Pro once again picks up more detail, and when cropping in, it's a similar story. Now, it's time to test a bit of zoom. The punchy colors again at the 1x setting are favoring the 17 Pro slightly, but now let's go to 2x. I personally don't see much of a difference between the two devices here, but at 4x, the 17 Pro's image is far better and clearer, so that upgrade seems to be working. Although at 5x, which is the 16 Pro's strong suite, things are a bit more even, and after cropping in, it's hard to really tell a difference. This is a look at 8x zoom on both devices, where again, clearly the 17 Pro is better, and now the maximum range of 25x on the 16 Pro, where it's the same story. In fact, the 17 Pro can go all the way up to 40x, another difference between the two devices, and the result is pretty good from the 17 Pro. Let's now move to portraits, starting with 1x, where I don't think you'll be disappointed with either device. This is a look at 2x, where I think the edge detection seems a bit better on the 16 Pro. And finally, there's 4x versus 5x. You can't shoot portraits in 5x on the 17 Pro, but the sharpness and detail from the 17 Pro is way better compared to the 16 Pro, which is something you'd want to consider if you're planning to upgrade. Another place where there is a difference is with selfies. The regular selfie, I don't see much of a difference to be honest, but the wide selfie gives you a much bigger radius of coverage, which is important if you're taking group selfies on the 17 Pro. You can also now take a selfie and hold the device in portrait mode, but take a landscape image, so it's even more coverage, and you can slightly zoom into this view, giving you a different look. So basically you've got 4 different lenses in one, which is quite useful, especially if you're a content creator. While in this mode you cannot take portrait selfies, here's an example of what they look like, and I think it's pretty similar between both of these devices. With that, let's now move on to some nighttime video followed by image samples. Alright, so now we have moved to nighttime videography, and we're starting with the selfie camera once again at 4K 60 FPS resolution. Both of these are recording pretty much mounted to the same tripod as has been the case throughout this video. And what's really cool is that you can noticeably see a difference between how the Apple iPhone 17 Pro is performing compared to the 16 Pro, especially when it comes to low light performance at this resolution. So it's nice to see that there is a significant improvement between both of these smartphones, even though the generation gap is just 1. So that's really nice to see. I'm also going to be switching between the audio profiles just like how I do. Let me know what you guys think, and I'm going to show you the selfie feature on the iPhone 17 Pro in video mode as well at night, so you guys can see how much of a difference that makes when it comes to using it. Alright, so now I've rested both of these smartphones against a bench because I want to show you guys the same feature I showed you during the day but also at night just for completion. But as you've already seen, you can do basically a landscape video on the iPhone 17 Pro without having to change orientation. The only caveat is that you have to stop the recording and then start it once again in the new orientation. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right about now. And there we go. This is pretty much the same orientation on the iPhone 17 Pro and a continuation of the iPhone 16 Pro video. But as you can see, the perspective of the iPhone 17 Pro's video is just completely different compared to what you get on the 16 Pro. And this isn't something that the 16 Pro can do. I don't know if it can or will be able to do in a future update. But so far, this is one of the most differentiating features between both of these, and it's going to be a tremendous help when it comes to content creation. Alright, so let's move on to some rear-facing video. This is a look at 4K 120 FPS on both of these smartphones. Now, either of these will film in high efficiency mode when it comes to using this feature, so this is something that you should definitely keep in mind. And on top of that, you are restricted to 1x, and then you can zoom into 2x on both of these smartphones. So this is a look at 2x video, and from the looks of it, there is some improvement on the 17 Pro for sure. Now, can I push the zoom range all the way? Yes, to 3x. and also to 3x here. So both the smartphones can record a maximum of 3x resolution at 4K 120 FPS. I'm sorry, 3x zoom at 4K 120 FPS. But with that as the benchmark, let's now move on downwards to 4K 60 FPS. Alright, so this is a great place to start off with when it comes to rear video using the ultra wide at 4K 60 FPS. The view is pretty good, but do you notice that the lights that you see in the far away sort of look, they look more yellow on the 16 Pro and slightly towards the purple fringe kind of element on the 17 Pro. That's something I've noticed, but at the same time, in terms of overall performance, I do see that the 17 Pro has much less noise compared to the 16 Pro. That also means that the 16 Pro is able to extract a bit more detail in sort of the darker areas in any sort of video, whereas that's not something that's happening on the 17 Pro. Now, what I can do is move to 1x on both of these smartphones, and as you can see, one thing I wanted to show you was the sort of lens light bouncing thing that you get on pretty much every iPhone. It's still here on the 17 Pro, which is a shame, but yeah, it could have been removed or somewhat downtoned, but you can see the logo bouncing across on both, so that hasn't changed at all. What I can now move towards is maybe 2x. So this is now 2x on both of these smartphones, and to me they look pretty identical. If anything, the 17 Pro is just marginally better, but it's not making that much of a difference to warrant some huge upgrade if you ask me. Now I'm gonna move to 5x on the 16 Pro. You don't get 5x on the 16 Pro, you get a default 4x, but I'm gonna sort of zoom in further manually and go to 5x and set it up. Oops, sorry about that. 5x is right over here now. Due to where the cameras are placed, you do get slightly shifting movements, but in terms of the overall stability of both of these smartphones at 5x, I can see that the 17 Pro is trying slightly harder and is somewhat better if you ask me. The 17 has better stability, but in terms of quality, it's not that much. Now I'm gonna go all the way to 8x. This is the 17 Pro's new feature, all the way to 8x, but the same can be achieved using a manual zoom on the 16 Pro at 8x. So because once again the perspectives are a bit different, here's what the 16 Pro Five Guys logo looks like, and here is what the 17 Pro's Five Guys logo looks like. I feel like in terms of light control, the 17 Pro is better than the 16 Pro, but you can tell me down in the comments as well. Last but not least, you can move all the way to 15x on the 16 Pro, which is something that you see here. And now moving for the 17 Pro, you can go all the way up until 24x, and this is sort of the result you get. You can be the judge of which one is better. I feel like it's very marginal. Alright, so with nighttime photos, we'll start with an image where there's plenty of ambient light and there's not much to separate the devices. Cropping in, it's a pretty similar story, but with the ultra-wide lens, the 17 Pro captures more detail in the darkness, so that's an improvement. And cropping into that, it's able to retain some more detail. Here's another image where the story using the wide lens is the same, and with the ultra wide lens there's more detail in view. And likewise, it's the same when it comes to cropping into this ultra wide image. Like during the day, next up is to check out zoom performance. So both of these are at 1x to start off, and next we're looking at 2x, where there's hardly anything to tell these apart. At 4x, just like during the day, the 17 Pro is much better, but that advantage drops at 5x, where the photos are pretty much on par. This is at 8x, which to me actually looks better on the 16 Pro, but further at 10x, the 17 Pro does go ahead. This is the view at 25x, which is pretty much identical, but the 17 Pro has a further option to go all the way to 40x if you'd want to use that for anything during the night. Next, let's move on to some portrait images during the night, where there's definitely a difference in colors. I prefer how the 17 Pro looks in terms of clarity, but the colors I like from the 16 Pro. This is a look at 2x, and in this view the 17 Pro seems less noisier than the 16 Pro, so that's an improvement. Between the 4x and 5x lenses on the 17 Pro and 16 Pro respectively, the 17 Pro definitely has an edge, probably the most notable especially when comparing nighttime photos. As for selfies, things look pretty identical, but for some reason I prefer how the 16 Pro performs. This is the wide view selfie, which again is better for coverage on the 17 Pro, but looks-wise the 16 Pro is my preference. Here, let me also show you the different selfie modes on the 17 Pro, but weirdly, there is a big deviation in how the landscape view looks from the cropped in version, and I expected a bit more consistency here, but you don't get that. Last but not least, you get portrait selfies, where the 16 Pro's edge detection is good, but the image ends up being a bit more noisy. So the 17 Pro wins in terms of clarity. And that's pretty much a look at the Apple iPhone 17 Pro versus the 16 Pro from a camera perspective. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This was Vaibhav, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.